Man, I had plans for this video. Approaching 1000 ranked matches in Guilty Gear Plus R, I wanted that number to be special for whatever reason. I wanted to play significantly better over my last 10 to 20 matches so that the 1000th game could be like I was leveling up. But before I played that last bunch of games, I wanted to finish the Dual Blades video. It had been sitting on the back burner for far too long, and I just wanted it done. Well, it ended up taking far longer than I thought it would to finish off, which left me pretty scatterbrained by the time I got back to playing Plus R, including a glorious return day where I went 3-23. Thankfully, the last 4 matches I played on the road to Game 1000 were decent enough. First came a pair of matches against an Order Soul that felt great. Given how much I faced them compared to the other characters I like going against, Haas is probably now my favorite character to fight overall. That was then followed by getting matched up against Amelia, one of the characters that gives me a ton of trouble. But in matches 999 and 1000, on my favorite stage no less, I was able to pull things together and cap it off with a win. Posting about the 1000 match thing on Twitter had a more versed player suggest I play quick match instead of ranked, and taking their advice has made things a lot more fun. The best part is being able to constantly rematch people, though I do wish that it could be done without kicking me back out to the general room. My only other experiences with this sort of thing are in Strive and Tekken 7, where you can just keep rematching your opponent from the normal rematch screen, so it came across as annoying that I couldn't do the same here. With that all out of the way, how have I been playing? I think this meme does a good job answering that question. If it weren't for going through this exact same thing with competitive Pokemon when I was younger, and making a real point to keep a healthy perspective, I could see myself being furious with Plus R right now. Or to put it into words, I'm at the stage where 45% of the time, I look pretty solid. Then there's the 45% of the time where I look absolutely helpless. And then there's the 10% of the time where I'm a mix of both. I'm at the roughest point in any endeavor. Competent, but not yet good. And I'm fine with that. With a good mindset, this can be the most fun part of the journey, with improvements big and small still coming frequently. During my last bunch of matches, I finally started getting the super jump cancel off of his 2S sometimes, which is going to be a huge boon for the rest of my play when it becomes consistent, since it's really important for getting into Axel's big damaging air combos. Let's stay on the positives for right now. Something else I've gotten more comfortable with is the different elements of defense that Plus R has to offer. I'm still a little slow when it comes to using faultless defense, and I'm much too conservative about when to use burst, but I'm noticing an improvement in my ability to recognize common strings and keep my guard up. I've also been trying out Axel's dead angle attack to break out of pressure. It still feels really foreign to me, but I'm pushing myself to do it more, if only to see what kind of situations can come out of it. I think that's my favorite thing about being at this stage in the competency journey. There's still so much of the game for me to see for the first time. That comes with the added bonus that I now know enough to at least attempt an appropriate reaction in these new situations. I love having to scramble in situations I've never seen before. They're where I feel I'm pushed to learn the most because they so often feel like all or nothing moments without having any real consequences. Either I make the right move in the moment, or I go back and learn what the right move is in replays, since Plus R's replay setup lets you hop into your own replays and find solutions in the exact spots you want to explore. It's a feature I should be using a lot more often, just like training mode and actually watching my replays back. I struggle to practice what I've preached in past videos, not because any of it was bad advice, but because I have horrible impulse control. It's way more fun in the moment to just hop into online matches and play the game as it was meant to be played. But I really need to do some more groundwork if I'm ever going to make significant strides with any degree of precision. On training mode, while having my one combo and the branches are nice, I often go into tunnel vision with using it nearly exclusively for long stretches. So it's time I learned a few more ground combos and got more precise about my approach options. So much of this could be fixed if my execution improved. A lot of the time, I know what I want to do, but don't have the execution to pull it off, so I end up reverting back to the few things I know I can do 100% of the time. Honest to God, I struggle with dashing left. That's funny for me to write, but boy is it infuriating in game. Can't follow up a knockdown by running into anything because I stagger walk my way there. Speaking of infuriating, if you saw my win-loss record lately, you might be shocked to find out that I come out of each play session feeling anything but. The day I started writing this script, I went 0-12, and that's a pretty standard day for me as of late. The day of recording this, I went 4-30 yesterday, so I'd be shocked if my win percentage over the past few weeks is even in double digits. But it doesn't bother me that much. In fact, I'd call that my biggest strength. I'm very good at keeping a positive headspace regarding these games, especially once I log off for the day. If anything does stick with me, it's an idea or a play I could have made here and there. Something to think about, not something to dwell on. And hey, sometimes I catch a miracle. For those unaware, there's a chip player who goes by the handle Joe Biden. They've been doing incredibly well in online plus R tournaments lately, and whenever they place high, the Twitter accounts for those events tag Biden's actual presidential account. I saw them in lobby a few days ago, and while I normally hate facing Chip, I wanted to at least get one match against them to see how it felt to play against such a good player. Shock of all shocks, I managed to win the first round. Then they proceeded to wipe the floor with me as you'd expect. It reminds me of the time I faced Elvin Shadow during my first month with Plus R. He's one of the best players in the US, and back then, I looked at it as an accomplishment that I at least managed to land some hits. Now I face another great player, and I'm able to sneak away with a round. This is a great example of how perspective is important. If I went into either of those matches expecting myself to keep it competitive with Elvin then and Biden now, I would have come away from them being really annoyed with my play. But because I set my expectations appropriately, I was able to come away from those matches feeling better about myself than before. And while the round I won is just some random round that otherwise means nothing, it felt to me like a proof of concept, like I got a glimpse of the player I can be. To make that the player I am, I need to work on gaining more control over my game. The best way to do that would be to not hop online immediately, and instead spend some time practicing beforehand. Then by the time I do go online, I'll have something I want to work into those games I play for the day. The trick would be to not force whatever I'm trying to do, but instead create situations where they'd naturally come out. Like if I want to work on anti-airing, I'd make a point of trying to make my opponent respect the threat of Rashosan, then bait out jumps and cancel Rasho into a 5P routine. Maybe that's the answer. I've moved away from what I said in the first Diaries video. I'm caring too much about trying to win individual matches. That's the risk of being at this stage in the learning process, losing some of the beginner mindset that helped early on because I thought I'd become good enough to no longer need it. And while yes, I still see some improvements when I'm trying to win, I also feel a lot more scatterbrained than I did when I first started, despite supposedly knowing more about Plus R now than I did back then. It makes sense when you think about it. When I first started, I was just focused on Rensen, the 5P to 6K combo, and using faultless defense better. That's 3 things I was trying to learn. Compare it now to where I'm tossing my focus between dead angles, Roman cancels, air teching, super jump cancels, and improving my movement, among other things, and it's easy to see how things could get jumbled for me. While searching for some Axel-specific info to improve my play, I came across 2 really cool channels. The first is KRC Pinto, who puts out an interview series called Secret Sauce, where he interviews top players and has them go over how they play their main character. I'm normally pretty picky when it comes to hosts on shows like this, but he's great about when to pick his spots with questions and comments. He's done 8 such interviews with Plus R players, and Axel Main Digital Watches happened to be one of them, so that gives me an hour-long video to soak up knowledge from. The other channel I want to show is one with a name I don't want to try to pronounce out of fear of butchering it. They have 4 videos going over different aspects of Axel's game, always starting with the very basics of a topic and then building up. This includes an entire video dedicated to the different ways you can use Axel's 3P, which is extremely helpful since it's one of his most important tools. I'm going to try to pull bits and pieces from all of those videos, but for right now, I think that the biggest way to improve my game is also the easiest. After 1000 games, it's back to basics with how I approach learning, focusing on Rensin, anti-airing, and faultless defense, along with movement. I am frustratingly bad at both dashing and air dashing, and anytime I double jump is completely random. Getting more comfortable and consistent with those tools will almost certainly open up more opportunities for me to experiment with different kinds of offense, while at the same time acting as their own kind of defense. If you take anything away from this video, let it be this. Improvement isn't linear. It's full of ups and downs and detours and whatever else. And you know, sometimes falling down can be the best thing for you, because it gives you the chance to get back up with a fresh perspective. Don't ignore that chance. Embrace it. That'll do it for me, but now on to the question for all of you. In the first fighting game you ever tried to get good at, how good do you think you were after 1000 matches? The only other fighting game I've ever put that many matches into was Tekken 7, but all I cared about there was doing cool combos. Plus R is the first fighting game I've ever given this kind of effort to, and the reception to these videos continues to surprise me in the best ways. Hope y'all enjoyed this video. Peace.